Hey, Justin Chamness here, and welcome to the Lease Option live stream. This is weekly. We're doing this now every Wednesday night at this time, so put it on your calendar. I look forward to seeing you and participating with you in talking about creative real estate and talking about lease options and much, much more because we do a lot more than just lease options here. Um, I'm trying to add Rashik here because he's inside the room here with me. Don't know what's happening here. I see you twice now. Am I seeing double? Did I drink too much?
I
I'm,
had some trouble with you seeing me. You see me twice. Sorry about that. I had some trouble. So I went to I put it in Google Chrome and now it's acting right.
Hey, well, that's great, man. I'm glad you're here. It's good to see you, and thanks for joining me tonight. We've got a pretty big meal on our plate here. Just really honestly, and I do also want to do open Q&A and open live chat. So the chat is open. If you guys watching out there want to put something in the chat for me and Big Sheik, then go ahead and throw it in the chat, and either he or I will answer it. Is that a fair deal, Big Sheik? Is that cool? Can I answer a
Yeah,
few
sounds like a
questions?
winner.
Hey, what about this? My name is Justin. I'm a landlord investor, and saw your property on Zillow today, and I wanted to ask you a few questions, Big Sheik, and let you ask me a few. And I want to talk about making an offer. If it's not a good fit, you can just tell me no. Is that all right? What's that sound like to you, Big Sheik? What is that? What I just said?
The opening to the conversation to get permission to have that conversation.
Great. Exactly. That's exactly right. So that's what I say to get when I get on the phone with these folks. And tonight we're going to talk about not only lease options, but we're going to talk about more than that. We're going to talk about these 5 questions. Sorry if you guys hear that. It's my neighbor working on his house. These 5 questions will turn you into a transaction engineer. What do I mean by that? Anybody have any ideas? Put it in the chat if you think you know what I might be talking about with these different transactional engineer things. What does it mean to be a transaction engineer? Put that in the chat if you're out there watching. All right. I'd like to see that. And thanks for watching, by the way. We do have quite a few people watching this already. Thank you for that. Go ahead and put in the chat. What does it mean to you to be a transaction engineer? Okay. Tonight, I want to talk about 5 questions. Honestly, it's 6. Okay. But we won't tell nobody. It's five or 6 questions. Okay. And they're really questions that you probably ought to have memorized. In other words, put them in the old can, and get them ready to go whenever you need one. All right. In other words, just memorize them. That's what I'm trying to say. All right. Just memorize some questions like these. They don't have to be these word for word, but these are questions that will help you get to what type of deal you're going to do as a transaction engineer. Has anybody put in the chat what they think a transaction engineer is? The definition. I don't see that yet. You guys might be busy with your
Having
hands.
more, having multiple exit strategies.
Okay. Yep. Multiple exit strategies. Like, for example, you want to give us an example?
One would be a wraparound
Okay.
and
Hold on.
subject to.
Wait.
Okay.
You're.
Okay.
I can't write that fast.
My bad.
Okay. Okay. He said wraparound. All right. That was one. And what was you said something else? What was
Subject
it?
to.
Okay.
Uh, Wish
Subject
I have to,
subject
get some
to
training on
subject to like that.
subject to. Yeah.
Subject to, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where's my eraser? Subject to. Okay, so he said wrap around. He said subject to, meaning subject to the existing mortgage, right?
Right.
What else? What else might we mean when we say strategies? Oh, hey, Carl Dillard's in the chat. Thanks, dude. When we're talking about transaction engineers, what does that mean to you to be a transaction engineer? We've got wraparound, we've got subject to. Carl Dillard in the chat there. Thank you, Carl. Great seeing you, by the way. He put down there wholesale, which I know Carl enough to know what he's talking about is cash deal, right? A cash deal. Would a transaction engineer know how to put one of these together? Well, sure. Yeah, absolutely. That's usually where we all start, right? Wholesale cash deal. All right. So besides that, what else is there? Jason in the chat
Owner
says
finance.
No. Okay. Yes. Jason says knowing where to place the prospect to build or engineer the right deal for them. Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm talking about what are those strategies? What is it? What does a transaction engineer do? And Rashik just said, what'd you say? What? Say it again.
Owner finance.
Okay. And that could mean maybe more than one thing, maybe. But yeah, owner finance. What do you mean when you say that? What are you picturing in your mind when you say the words owner finance?
The owner's financing the deal, and you're executing it.
Yeah.
Transaction.
Right.
So, I'm right or wrong.
Okay. So the homeowner is helping you buy the property. You're not going to a bank, in other words, is what you're saying, right?
Right.
Okay. So far we've got subject to. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I said them out of order because the order it was given to me, and here is wraparound. Wraparound. A transaction engineer needs to understand a wraparound. A subject to. A wholesale cash deal. And an owner finance. What else might we put there? Tyree says free and clear property. Carrie says subject to, aka getting the deed, aka taking over payments. Taking over payments. We should, you know what? You guys remember a show on Nickelodeon back when you were a kid? If you're my age, it was called You Can't Do That on Television. And every time somebody said something, it was like a taboo word or phrase, they would like pour green slime on that person. I feel like we need to do that on this show, except like it's not a bad thing, it's a great thing. So when somebody says something like take over payments, like bells go off, the sirens, the lights, and then Big Sheet gets drowned here with green slime. What do we mean by owner finance? What's that mean? What else could we add to this list? Anything else that we could add besides wraparound, besides subject to, besides a wholesale cash deal, besides whatever owner finance means? What else could we put down here? Anything?
Lease option.
Okay, well, a transaction engineer, might be interested in a lease option, or for some of us, we might be more familiar with the term lease purchase. Okay. So far tonight, we've discovered that a transaction engineer is going to be interested in doing wraparounds, and then subject to, and wholesale cash deals, and owner finance, and then last but not least, probably not even last actually, because there's one more that I can think of, lease option or lease purchase. Transaction engineer. So far, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. One more. What is it? Anybody? Short sale. Oh, I knew somebody was going to say one. That's not. We're not going to talk about short sale tonight, but that is a strategy. You are absolutely right. Absolutely right. Somebody put short sale in the chat. Carl Dillard said he was watching Soul Train. Not sure what you mean there, Carl. You said wholesale watching Soul Train while I was watching Nickelodeon. You can't do that on television. That's what you're talking about, Carl. Hey, you know what? My big brothers was watching Soul Train, so you know, I guess I guess that just says something about our age, man. Carl, I love you, dude. I ain't seen you in a minute, dude. I miss you when I don't see you. If you're in the club and I don't see you, I miss you. So that's what happens. I get used to seeing you and I like you. All right. So that anything else we can add to this list of things that a transaction engineer should have in his toolbox, right? And is that an appropriate way of looking at it? Is that a wraparound is just a tool, that a subject to is just a tool, that a cash wholesale discount offer is just a tool, that an owner finance is just a tool, a lease option's just another tool. What's another tool that we must have in our bag if we're going to be transaction engineers? Anybody else got one? Short sale's not a wrong answer, by the way. It's just not something that I'm trained at. So I'm not going to talk about it tonight. Is that all right? Anybody got another one? Oh, Jason Richter with the home run. Perfect, dude. In the chat, he says straight option. Straight option. And that is right. So let me write that down. A straight option. Option agreement. Kyle says option agreement. So an option agreement or a straight option, all of it is the same. Yes. Straight option. All right. So let's go through it one more time and then let's start breaking these down a little bit and you'll understand them a little more. If you're a very brand new beginner with creative finance, if you're a wholesaler that's doing ugly houses and you've been doing 2-3 deals a month, 1 deal a month, you want to take this up to 2-3 deals a month, 4-5 deals a month. How you can do that is expanding your toolbox, adding a few of these tools and becoming a transaction engineer by adding wraparounds. Booyah! What else are we going to add to that? What was the next one? Subject to.
Subject
All
to.
right. What was the next one you guys gave me? It was
Cash offer.
money. Cash money. Where'd the cash money go? Here it is. Cash money. Why is the cash money always hard to find? Owner finance was the next one. Lease option. And then straight option. Okay, so let's take it from the top. Is everybody ready to take it from the top? You guys mind if I play
Oh yeah.
I'm going to play a 10-second commercial that'll set the time, that'll set the mind frame for you for what we're doing here, because creative real estate is all about taking over people's house payments, like Carrie said in the chat here. And when I say take over house payments, that's when the bells should go off and the sirens should go off, and then Big Sheik should get drenched over here with green slime. I just said take over house payments. Exactly. I just literally said that. So watch on the back of your car. You can put it on the back of your car. I have to have a good lead. How about this? Cheap. Let's be either ready to either sell or rent. One or the other. And there's one more, you guys. They must want to talk to me. Wouldn't that be nice? You will have people call you. It's so effective. You will have people calling you, asking you if you take over other kinds of payments as well. That's absolutely true. You know, I say that all the time, every week. You're absolutely going to have other people calling you, looking to see if you take over other kind of payments as well, besides just house payments. Okay. That's the kind of world we live in. And it's sad in a way. It's kind of sad, but you will get people that want you to take over a car payment or take over some other thing they have, but maybe a boat, or maybe it's a timeshare, or maybe a vacation property or something like that. All right. So maybe it might even be like a four-wheeler or a Sea-Doo or something like that. I mean, it really can be pretty crazy when you start putting that message out there that I take over house payments. You'll get all kinds of offers. But when the phone rings and it's a property owner, you need to be equipped with the tools in your tool bag that will help you get this done. And so tonight, I really do want to spend a few minutes on each one of these that we just named off. And we're going to talk about not only what it is, we're going to give you the helicopter overview. We're going to talk about just slightly what's going on with this particular strategy so that you understand as a newbie, if that's what you are. And then I want you to feel comfortable enough with it to be able to ask the first question, because the first question, there's a question that goes with each one of these strategies, right? Like, for example, there's a question that goes with asking a homeowner to do a wholesale cash deal with you. Okay. How do you, as a wholesaler, ask that question? And let's talk about that. Let's just kick off right now. But before we do that, let me say one more thing. Okay. The order that we're going to talk about these in tonight is important because they are the order of power. They are the order of power. Okay. So the ones we start with today, they're going to be the ones that put the most power in the investor's hands. Okay, so you're going to control the deed starting right away. And as we go down the list here of strategies tonight, you're going to see, and I'll highlight this as we go through, that the power shifts a little bit more to the homeowner as we move through the list. Okay. And it's okay if you want to think as a transactional engineer, if you want to think of these as a list for a little while until it becomes fluid for you. Okay. And hopefully that makes sense, everybody. So the first one I want to talk about is all cash. Right now in the chat room, please, someone, I know that we've got a great group of people watching and we got Big Sheik in here in the room. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. Right now, someone in the chat, will you please put a question that we could ask the homeowner if we are interested in doing an all cash deal with that homeowner? Can you put a question in the chat? What would we ask the homeowner right now for all cash? In other words, for all cash offers, and this is where the deed transfers. Okay, this is why this is the first one. This is a power move because the investor or the investor's buyer is going to capture the deed. Okay, it's going to be yours forever. You're going to buy it with cash. Okay, and maybe someone would debate this with me that I've ranked it number one. That's okay. I won't argue with you about the topic, but for an all cash offer, the deed is going to transfer to either the investor or his buyer if I'm assigning it. Okay, if I'm a wholesaler, I'm assigning it or double closing. It's going to transfer to someone at the closing table here shortly. So if I want to see if the seller is willing to discount this property and sell it to me wholesale, what question do I need to be prepared in my real estate sales gun? Okay. I've got to fire something off because I got a motivated seller on the phone. What is the question that I've got to propose? Can somebody put it in the chat? Anybody? I'm gonna stall here for a minute and just see if somebody puts it in the chat. Somebody said, what repairs does it need? That's actually not a bad question. Okay, you would want to know in time for sure in your conversation with this homeowner what repairs, because you're going to ask for a discounted price. You're a wholesaler. You are coming in for a cash offer as an investor. Investors don't make full price offers. Okay, not cash. All right. So in cash, you're going to be offering a discounted price, right? So you would want to know, and that would help you with this, but knowing what repairs it would need. But that's not what I'm looking for. Okay. Eric says, would you be interested in selling your home as is for cash to an investor? Not a bad one. Not a bad one. Not a bad question. If a homeowner that's a motivated homeowner has got a house that needs repairs, calls your business, you get on the phone with them and you start talking with them, what question are you going to propose to them? Would you be interested, Mr. Homeowner, in selling your home as is for cash to an investor like me? Great job, Eric. Not a bad answer. I put his right there on the screen if you want to capture that, somebody. All right. Let's talk about what I put down there. All right. Here is the traditional answer, everyone. For an all-cash offer, the deed transfers. If you want to see if the seller is a discount wholesale seller, ask this question. Mr. Homeowner, if I were to pay you all cash and close quickly, what's the least amount you could accept? Woo! And then there's fireworks, and then there's music and celebration and parades, because that is the traditional, perfectly worded question that every real estate investor, wholesaler needs to have loaded into his pre-planned pipeline up here in his brain to spit out to a homeowner when he runs across a transaction that is a potential ugly house discounted deal. If I were to pay you all cash and close quickly, what's the least amount you could accept? Okay. All right. Somebody here said, what is the lowest price you would feel comfortable selling your home at? Not bad, Abigail. Not bad. Not bad. All right. So here's what I recommend. If you're serious about this business, take a few minutes, write down one of these, go to ChatGPT, plug it in, ask it to rewrite it 10 different ways, and then pick the one that you like the best. And then you'll have your own unique version of this particular question that you can fire off, plug and play in any conversation involving an ugly house. All right. It's good. It's good stuff. All right, let's go over here and jump into the next one. That one was wholesale cash deal. The next one we're going to tackle is this one. The first creative finance technique that I feel like you should learn as a transaction engineer is subject to. It is a creative finance technique. Subject to. Somebody tell me, Big Sheik, do you want to tell me what subject to means? What does it mean?
Subject to, Justin, I have to be, that's one I have to learn. I haven't mastered that strategy.
That's okay,
I'll
dude.
be honest.
That's okay. I just want you to always and forever from this point remember that subject to always means subject to the existing mortgage. Okay? You just have to finish the sentence because all the rest of us, we just got lazy and we stopped finishing the sentence because the whole sentence is subject to the existing mortgage. Okay. But we just get lazy and we say subject to. Actually, it's been saying sub to. I say sub 2.0, it gets confusing. Nobody knows what we're talking about. Subject to what? Subject to what? Subject to who? What's going on? Subject to the original mortgage. So in this particular case, the deed transfers. Okay? In a subject to, I just want you to remember the deed transfers. That's why I'm talking about this number 2. Okay? It is subject to the existing mortgage. So in other words, the deed transfers to the investor while the mortgage stays in the original homeowner's name.
Okay.
Think about that. In other words, I am a homeowner. I have a mortgage on my property. I own a property worth $100,000. I have a mortgage on it for $97,000 is what I still owe on it. Okay. I call Big Sheik and I say, hey, Big Sheik, I'm willing to walk away from this property. You can have the keys. I'm going to sign the deed over to you tonight when you come over to my house and pick up the keys. Okay. What are you doing? Okay. You are buying this house, taking the deed while the mortgage is still in that dude's name. That's okay because you're going to make the payment for him. Okay. That's a subject to the existing mortgage. So the deed is going to transfer, but the mortgage is going to stay in the homeowner's name. Now, that is one strategy that we'll talk about here, along in conjunction with another strategy someone else mentioned too, which is called a wraparound. In a wraparound, the deed changes or transfers as well. Okay, just like a subject to. That's why this is lumped in with subject to. The difference is we are not really buying the property subject to, because the homeowner is going to continue making the mortgage payment for himself. We're going to pay him a mortgage now that goes around his mortgage, it all inclusive, all encompassing. Okay. So, in other words, for example, if I'm a homeowner and I have a house that's worth $100,000 and I have a mortgage on it that's $97,000. Okay. Are you following me? And I want to buy this house with a wraparound. Okay. I'm going to have him transfer the deed to me. And I'm going to make the homeowner a payment every month that is going to be enough for him to go ahead and make the mortgage payment. See how it's very similar to subject to. Very similar. One is a little more palatable for the homeowner. I'm giving you a clue here. This is a little more palatable for the homeowner because they get to manage the payment themselves to the mortgage company still. Over here, subject to, you're taking over responsibility to make that payment. Okay. Here, they're still staying in between. A lot less risk here of the due on sale clause being called. All right. Just a thought. All right. So, but these are very similar. Don't get them mixed up, but very similar. Okay. Hopefully that helps. You might replay that little section. We could also do ourselves a big favor, really honestly, by looking up what some of these mean on Google. All right. And I know that sounds kind of silly, but let's do that just real quickly. It says buying a home subject to the existing mortgage means the seller is not paying off the mortgage. Instead, the investor is just taking over making the payment. Okay. And then you can see here, if I stop sharing screens, how do I stop sharing screens? And I'm going to share now what a wraparound looks like on Google. And I know you guys can look on Google, so I'm not going to belabor this forever. But look, a wraparound mortgage is a home loan that allows the seller to maintain their existing mortgage while the buyer's mortgage wraps around the existing amount owed. The deed transfers. Okay. The deed transfers. And so that buyer is paying a payment to the homeowner. The homeowner is continuing to maintenance the payment on the mortgage themselves. Oh, okay. I hope that helps. So, what question do we need to have in our pipeline here up here in our head or in our sales gun? Ready to come out, pop out to the homeowner when we run across a deal that may be a great candidate for a two, or it may be a great candidate for a wraparound. Does anybody have a question? Put it in the chat. What's the question that a transaction engineer must know in order to start a conversation with a homeowner about a wraparound or a subject to? This is how it all begins. Someone put it in the chat. Anybody? What's a great question that we can ask a homeowner that will start a conversation about subject to or wraparound mortgage? Anybody? Going once. Going twice. All right, I'm going to give you the answer. Would you sell us the house for what you owe? Boy, is that hard or what? Woo! We overthought that. Some of you overthought that one. Would you sell the house for what you owe? Yes, Mr. Homeowner. I understand that you are a motivated homeowner. Let me ask here. Would you sell us the property today for what you owe? If the homeowner says yes, perfect candidate for a subject to. If he's worried about his credit because he's a conscientious kind of guy, I might be interested in a wraparound. Okay, does that make sense? All right. You guys ready to move on to the next strategy? Okay. Somebody put it in the chat. Easy, easy. I'm glad you think so. Took me a long time to try to piece this together, but let's go to this next one. Now the first one you remember was cash money. Cash money. That's not very creative, is it? So we got into the creative realm when we broke into subject twos and wraparounds. Okay. So we're going to stay in creative mode and we're going to go on down here to what we like to refer to as the second creative finance option, which is seller carryback. What does that mean? What does that mean? Does anybody know? What does a seller carryback mean? And does the deed transfer? Does the deed transfer in a seller carryback? Anybody in the chat? Seller carryback. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. In the chat, a seller carryback does. What is a seller carryback? Let's see what Google has to say about a seller carryback. All right, it says seller carryback, also known as owner financing. The seller of the property agrees to finance the property outright. They transfer the title to the buyer. So the deed does change hands here in exchange for a promissory note and deed of trust for the full purchase price of the property. Okay. All right. So there we go. A seller carryback, the deed transfers. Okay. So we can say for a creative finance option, seller carryback offer, the deed will transfer to the new investor or to the investor's buyer if you're assigning this. By the way, can you assign any of these? Put that in the chat. Can you assign any of these strategies? Can they all be wholesaled? Can they? All right, I'm just throwing that out there. I'm putting that out there for instance. Now, put it in the chat. Can I wholesale assign any of these deals? In other words, if I get a subject to under contract or a wraparound under a deal under contract, or if I get this seller carryback deal under contract, can I assign that? Can I wholesale that off? Okay, so the deed, and if I say the deed's going to transfer on one of these transaction styles, in other words, it's either going to transfer to me if I keep it, or it's going to transfer to my assignee, right? Whoever I assign it to, whoever I'm wholesaling the deal to, my end buyer, my investor buyer, my retail buyer, whoever it might be. Okay, and I'll let you know too. A lot of times in these deals, the end buyer, especially on the no equity kind of deals, the end buyer is a retail buyer. Okay, so it's not like an investor buyer. All right, let's talk about this seller carryback stuff. I will say this too: it doesn't necessarily have to be the entire purchase price. Okay, what if a homeowner you're doing a subject to deal, and let's say that I have a subject to property and I call you and I say to you, hey, Mr. Investor, I'm a motivated homeowner. Yeah, and I've got this property and I'm pretty much ready to just walk away and real flexible, don't need it, just gonna skip town next Friday and just ready to do something with somebody. If you want it, come talk about it because I'd love to do something with you right away. Okay. And then Big Sheep gets a hold of him and says, hey, how can I help you? I'm an investor. And then they say the same thing to him. And he says, well, hey, now listen, what we could do is we could take that property over, get it off your plate right away. And we'll make that payment on that mortgage for you. What is that, by the way? Oh, I owe 70,000 and I'm going to need the rest of my equity. And Big Sheik says, well, what if we make those in payments? See, that's a carryback. What if you make those in payments? So it doesn't have to be the whole purchase price. It could be just part of the purchase price, or it could be a down payment. Okay. It could be just not, it could be all of it. Okay. It could be the entire purchase price. So what do we say to a homeowner to see if this strategy would work? Put it in the chat if you know it. Put it in the chat. Okay, we've got some folks here chiming in. You can do a wraparound mortgage and deed of trust where the deed does transfer. You can do a wrap agreement for sale, land contract, contract for deed, which is held in escrow. Yep, we're getting to that. Yep, we're getting to that. Great. Um, all right. Somebody put in the chat here, what is it that we can say to a homeowner to find out if seller carryback or owner finance? Okay, that's what this is. How do we find out if this is a good strategy for a homeowner? What's the question? We've got to ask the homeowner a question to find out if this is the strategy that fits them. What are we going to ask them to find out if owner finance or seller carryback works? Anybody? Anybody? All right, chat. Anybody in the chat? All right, I'll give it to you. You guys know I will. I'll give it to you. Here it is. Are you ready? Owner finance, seller carryback. Would you accept a small down payment and monthly installments if you're secured by a mortgage position? What do you think about that? Pretty simple, huh? What if you called homeowners that are for sale by owners as an investor, if you need cash, and you sent out a text blast like I teach, and you asked, "Hey, is anybody out there open to doing some owner finance?" And yes, some of them are. Okay, and when they respond, you ask them that question: "Hey, would you accept a small down payment and monthly installments if you're secured by a mortgage position?" And if they say, "Yeah, we would consider doing that," now all you have to do is negotiate something slightly better than they could get at the bank, that a tenant buyer or a new buyer could get at the bank. You've got something now, an owner finance deal you could market for down payment money. Can you get them to do the deal with a small down payment? Would you accept a small down payment and monthly installments if you're secured by a mortgage position? Okay, that is what we would call owner finance, simple owner finance. All right. Brandon in the chat is putting some pretty complex, not complex, but a little more complicated sounding ideas. Guys, this is creative finance real estate. You can get really, really creative with this and do all kinds of mismatching here and pulling from here and doing this and adding these two together and mixing them around and flipping it upside down and shaking it. Okay, this is very, very basic stuff here. Very, very basic. I'm a very, very basic guy. Okay. So I'm doing very, very basic stuff. All right. So I'm just talking about owner finances being straight seller carryback. Would you, Mr. Homeowner, would you accept a small down payment and then the rest of your equity and installments if you're secured by a mortgage position? In other words, they're just going to act like the Mr. Homeowner. You're just going to, you know how folks go down to the bank and get a loan. Well, we don't want to do that here. Okay. You're going to act as the bank for us, and we're going to make a payment to you every month. Okay. That is a owner finance. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about that, because remember, the question actually is, would you accept a small down payment and monthly installments? So you've got to be ready now to negotiate down payment. Okay. Because that you brought it up. But there's nothing wrong with bringing it up. I find that right now, if you can negotiate down payment, you can pretty much write your ticket, y'all. Okay. If you don't know how to write your ticket with down payment negotiation, why don't you go to shutupmoney.com and schedule with me? And if we talk for 15 minutes and if my coaching isn't even a good option for you or a good fit for me, it's okay. You can tell me no. I will still give you my cheat sheet, not only this one, I'll give you this one for tonight, but I'll also give you my down payment devastator cheat sheet, which I find is super, super duper helpful for negotiating down payment for creative real estate investors. Okay. Whether you're doing a subject to deal or whether you're doing one of these other strategies, a wraparound or seller carryback or something, whenever down payment gets brought up, you're going to have to be prepared to talk about down payment. And again, just like this stuff, if you don't have these pre-registered questions already ready to go, you're not going to know what to say when the down payment question comes up. Guys, I'm not a brilliant person, okay? I've just really already planned out what I'm going to say before you bring up your objections in role play. Or when a homeowner brings up an objection or a question or a stall or whatever it is in real life, the difference between you and me is I've already got the answer pre-programmed up here and you don't yet. Okay, so that's really, truly, frankly, the only difference between you and I. Okay, I have the personality of a wet boot. Okay, I'm not that likable. All right, most people look at me and they think, oh, this guy's a ding dong. Okay, what a dinglebat. Okay, he's a really kind of a moronical kind of character, isn't he? You know what? But I've got a skill set that feeds me good. All right, I can teach. If this moronical character here can learn it, then you can certainly put those same answers in your can, right? Not that tough. Not that tough. Kyle has it. If I could pay for your asking price, would you accept payments? Would you accept payments? Pretty simple. That's a way of doing it without bringing up down payment. So yeah, kudos to you, Kyle. Great answer. All right, super good answer. Let's talk about another strategy so we can keep it moving a little bit. The third and we're still talking about creative finance here. Remember the first deal we talked about that a transaction engineer needs to understand is the cash deal. And then we got into the creative world and we talked about subject to and wraparounds. Okay. And then from there, we went and we talked about seller carryback. Okay. And in the subject to and the wraparound and the seller carryback, the deed transfers. Okay. Now, the next one we want to talk about is a creative finance deal, but this is seller financing, but it's contract for deed or land contract or an installment contract. And this is just simply where the deed does not transfer. Okay. The deed is not transferring here. Hopefully that makes sense. The difference is here because this is the first one I've mentioned tonight where the deed does not transfer. Okay. So we are slipping into a power shift now where the homeowner now has more power in the strategy than the investor, because the homeowner is going to maintain the deed. Okay, they're going to keep control of the deed. All right. So you're going to want to remember that when you cross the line from owner finance, seller carryback style over to this owner finance, land contract, contract for deed, installment contract, whatever it's called in your state, the deed does not transfer until the contract is fulfilled. In other words, until it's been paid for in full. Okay. Or unless the contract reads something else, some other stipulation. Some of these owner finance contracts that are contracts for deed or land contracts, some of them are the deed won't transfer until 20% of the purchase price has been paid, and then the deed transfers. Okay. But my point is that the deed remains in the control of the homeowner in this type of scenario of contract for deed or land contract, which makes it maybe perhaps more fitting for a homeowner over others. If you have a very motivated, desperate, walking away homeowner that doesn't care about their credit, I'm going for subject to. Okay. If I've got a desperate homeowner that cares about their credit, I'm probably going wraparound. Okay. If I've got a homeowner that does care, but he's really flexible and wants to play ball with me, doesn't mind having a small down payment and taking the rest of his equity and payments, I wouldn't mind doing an entire, seller carryback deal, owner finance. Next after that, a land contract, because now I don't get the deed. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Now I don't get the deed. Okay. So land contract, owner finance, contract for deed. Let's come up with a question. Somebody put it in the chat. What could I ask a homeowner that will help me determine whether or not a contract for deed or land contract would be a good option? Okay, what's a good question? Go ahead and put it in the chat. While you're putting it in the chat, let's read what Google says. A land contract is a way to buy and sell real estate without involving the bank or a third party lender. Now, listen to this part carefully. The seller finances the purchase, the buyer pays for it in installments, and the title or the deed remains in the seller's hands until the loan is paid off. Okay. That is a land contract, contract for deed, owner finance. What question can we ask? Anybody? Going once, going twice. We got a good group watching tonight. Thank you. God bless you for watching. We're going to wrap up here in just a few minutes, probably about 10 minutes. Here's the answer, everybody. Write this down, screenshot it. Again, take it to Chat GPT. Ask Chat GPT to write it 10 different ways for you, so you'll have a unique version of your own and keep it for yourself. Okay. Now, here's what you could say. Take this to Chat GPT. If I were able to give you closer to what you're asking, would you take a small down payment and the rest of your equity in monthly installments? Doesn't that sound familiar? Yeah, it kind of does. Kind of does. In this particular case, the deed doesn't transfer though. In the former, where we were talking about owner finance, seller carryback. And that's where the deed does transfer. So if you have a skittish homeowner that doesn't want the deed to transfer because blah blah, but they're still interested in owner finance, then what you're going to offer is you're going to offer that contract for deed, land contract, because it is owning the house. You're not getting the deed though, but it's owning the house. Okay. And it's making a payment to the homeowner. Again, what if you called for sell by owners and you were that you texted and you had said, "Hey, is anyone out there interested in something creative, owner finance?" And you had a few people respond and say, "Yes, I'm interested." And trust me, they will say that. Right now in history, they will say that. And so if you were to talk to those for sell by owners and say, "Hey, listen, if I were to give you close to what you're asking, would you take a small down payment and the rest of your equity in monthly installments?" And if they say yes, and they are not okay with the deed transferring, maybe they're uncomfortable with that because they owe money, they have a mortgage, then what you could offer is a land contract, contract for deed, whatever it's called in your state, an installment contract. Okay. All right. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully that helps fill in the blanks a little bit there. Now we're going to jump right out of the creative world and we're going to jump right back into what I call, well, the creative non-financed world, because all of what we just talked about, with the exclusion of wholesale cash deals, all we've talked about so far has been creative finance. Okay. So if you understand what we just spent the last 45 minutes talking about, then you have a really good grasp of the most popular strategies when it comes to creative real estate finance or creative finance real estate. Okay. So let's move on though, because there's more strategies. This is a creative but not finance. Okay. Creative not finance, meaning lease option. Now this is my big thing. This is where I'm kind of like special. All right. Because I love lease options. Big Sheik, you think I'm special, man? I think you got yourself muted there, brother. I don't know. I can't hear you, man. but I can see it in your face. I think you're special too. I like you, man. Thanks for being here tonight. Lease options or lease purchase. All right, I won't talk about that too much tonight. If you want to know about lease options, lease purchase, again, you could meet with me on Zoom and I'll explain all about it to you. This is my favorite technique personally, and the reason why it's my favorite is because the deed does not transfer. That's right. And it's easier for me to talk the homeowner into rather than maybe a subject to. However, there are every tool in a contractor's toolbox fits a certain scenario. Okay. So I can't say one's better than the other or whatnot, because your motivation of the homeowner is really going to determine and what tool you use or strategy. And then it's also going to be determined really by, your comfortable level, with what you understand. And so lease options is a great gateway drug. I feel like it's a gateway to all the rest of these. Because once you understand lease options and you've mastered that strategy, like in how it works, and you can talk to a homeowner, you can make subtle changes in your conversation, plug and play some of these questions tonight, and then you can, start doing some of these other strategies as well. You're not that far. See, you're a ways off, frankly, from being a transaction engineer when you're just a cash deal guy. You're a ways off. But when you go in the gateway of lease options, now you really are opening up the gateway to all the rest of these. You're not that far from all the rest of these. Okay, so that's why I like lease options. Personally, Mr. Homeowner, let me just say that I'll share this. Mr. Homeowner, if I were to make you monthly payments and I was responsible for all the repairs, would you allow us a 12-month lease to allow us time to line up better financing and close with you? That's what I've been saying lately. Okay. You see how palatable that is? That is really palatable versus some of these others. Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm not trying to poop on these other strategies. I'm just saying that's why this one, you can see I'm in love with lease options. All right. I've been in love with lease options my whole life. All right. And I don't know why, and I can't explain it. All right. I've spent the last 2 decades of my life learning and studying and fantasizing and doing and everything I could with lease options. And I don't know why. I'm just a lease options freak. Right. But I love lease options. If I were to pay you a monthly payment, Mr. Homeowner, and be responsible for all repairs, would you consider leasing the property to us for 12 to 18 months and allowing us to purchase it within that window? That's how I've been saying it lately too. Okay. All right. We got one more, and then we're going to close up shop for the night, everybody. One more, and that is straight option. Straight option. Thank you, Kyle, for saying that was the best line of the day. Yes. Eric says when presenting a lease option to the homeowner, how do you respond when they say, "What are your terms?" What are your terms? Now, that's a good question, Mr. Eric. And here's exactly what I would say. When I'm presenting a lease option to a Mr. Homeowner, how do I respond when the Mr. Homeowner says, "What are your terms?" Mr. Homeowner, and you can quote me, Eric. Mr. Homeowner, I'm confused. What terms do you mean? I'm offering to rent the property for a certain monthly rent and purchase it at your purchase price during this time frame. Is that something that would work for you? Or maybe not. If you want to move the conversation forward, you could say this at the very end. Mr. Homeowner, how much money monthly will you need if we are to buy the property within 12 to 18 months? How much money monthly rent will you need if we are to buy the property within 12 to 18 months? Okay. Keep the conversation moving that way. All right. Yep. What? Been doing this a long time, man. I got all these canned answers right up here in the old bone, you know? Absolutely. It's just bouncing around in there with a bunch of, probably bong resin and beer hops and playing ping pong up in there, and then it comes out down here the pie hole. Let's talk about the last strategy. We got 4 minutes. The last strategy is not creative. Yep, just like lease options is not creative. And the last strategy is what somebody mentioned earlier, and that is a straight option. Straight option. Somebody put in the chat real quick, what is a straight option? What is a straight option? What does that mean? When you're buying a home with a straight option, what are we talking about? A straight option. Actually, you know what? We didn't share the screens and read what Google had to say about lease purchases, so let's do that real quick too. A lease purchase agreement in real estate is a rent-to-own contract between a tenant and a landlord for the former to purchase the property at a later point in time. The renter pays the seller an option fee. Woo! That's what I'm talking about. I get in the way of those every time I can. At an agreed upon purchase price, giving them exclusive rights to buy the property. All right, that's a lease purchase. Now, let's move on to just a straight option. What is a straight option? A real estate purchase option is a contract on a specific piece of real estate that allows the buyer the exclusive right to purchase the property. It's a permission slip to buy the property at a certain price during a certain time frame. Once a buyer has an option to buy a property, the seller cannot sell the property to anyone else. Maybe that's an exclusive option. The buyer pays for the option to make this real estate purchase. Okay, hopefully that sheds a little light on that. An option, it can be exclusive. It could be non-exclusive, which is almost worthless, really. It's basically worthless. But not entirely. Could be. Practically. Here's all I'm saying is in a straight option, you've got a certain amount of power, not much as the investor. You're getting a permission slip to try to put a cash deal together and find a buyer for it. Okay, this is how we, back in the day, just for everybody that doesn't maybe necessarily remember, back in the day, we used to do wholesale ugly deals just like this, okay, using an option. So whereas now the wholesale trainers teach you to go get it under contract with the homeowner using a purchase and sale agreement. A lot of times 20, 30 years ago, back when, when I got started 20 years ago, I was buying trainings and stuff from before then. They were using option contracts a lot to do these ugly house wholesale deals. All right. Nowadays, we use purchase and sale agreements. You could easily do an ugly house wholesale deal with an option contract just as well. Okay. All right. So absolutely, Max, just like learning a new instrument. Yep. Once you learn one, you can transfer your skills over because all instruments kind of work off the same 8 notes. That's right. All right, so let's talk about straight options. The deed does not transfer. You're getting a permission slip from the homeowner to find a cash buyer. Usually, if you're a wholesaler, here's what you would ask the homeowner. If I were able to sell your house to one of my connections for all cash with no risk to you without renting it, we will need to agree on price. So what is the lowest amount you can take for a quick cash sale? All right. There's no round of applause after that, but that was the last one. All right. So if you're interested in creative real estate, it's a great time to get involved in it, everyone. Okay. It's a really great time to learn how to do ugly deals, but not just stop there. Why not add to that subject to? That's creative finance. Okay. Why not add to that wraparounds? Why not add to that seller carryback and then contract for deed or land contract or installment contracts? Why not add to that lease options? Why not add to that just straight options? Okay. Now, is that really complicated? We just went pretty in depth there. We're not seriously in depth, but we went pretty in depth for an hour. And we went through every single strategy that if you mastered, you would be a transaction engineer. And you can see they're not that tough and they're not even that different. And in fact, most of these can be done. Hold on. Let's do that real quick too. Let's do that real quick. I want to do that real quick before we go. I want to talk about this real quick before we go. Paperwork. Somebody put in the chat, what agreement do I use to do this deal? Somebody tell me, what do I do? What agreement do I use to do this deal? This is going to help somebody. What agreement do I use to do a wholesale cash money deal? Somebody put it in the chat, or Big Sheik, if you want to holler, you can holler it out. Anybody? Nobody knows. Nobody knows what agreement we use to do a cash money deal. We are some seriously, desperately in bad shape, wholesaling sons of bitches. If we don't know, if we don't know how to get a purchase and sale agreement. Yeah. T Bezzy said you could use an option agreement. You certainly could, either one. Okay, but let's just say purchase and sale agreement. Okay, cash offer, purchase and sale agreement. Okay, so that's remember that. Put that in your brain. Wholesale deal, cash offer, purchase and sale agreement. Let's talk about the next one. Subject to. What agreement do we use for it? What agreement do we use for subject to? I want you to know how close you are to being a transaction engineer. What agreement do we use for subject to? We already said we use a purchase and sale agreement for a cash deal. Now, what do we use for a subject to deal? Somebody put it in the chat. We ain't going nowhere until somebody gets this right. No, I'm just playing. I see your lips moving, Big Sheik, but I can't hear you talking. I don't know what happened, bro. Okay. Eric says in the chat, in order to do a subject to, you have to have a purchase and sale agreement. And he says with an amendment, but I'm going to say not an amendment, but rather a disclosure agreement. That's it. It's just to cover your ass mostly. Okay, so again, we've got wholesale cash deal, purchase and sale agreement, subject to purchase and sale agreement. What about this? What agreement do we use for this? What agreement do we use for this? Wraparound. Come on, what agreement? Put it in the chat. If you want to hop in here, it's shutupmoney.com/LOL. Lease option live stream. LOL. Shutupmoney.com/LOL. Thanks for popping in here tonight, Big Sheik. Good to see you, man. What do we use for wraparound? Oh, Carl Dillard says that we use a purchase and sale agreement, except this time we use a wraparound disclosure. Is this hard? So far, we're doing all of these with one damn agreement. What about this one? Seller carryback, owner finance. What agreement do we use? Put it in the chat if you know it. What agreement do we use if we want to tie up one of these with a homeowner? Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. All right. Gotta put it in the chat room. What do we use agreement-wise for an owner finance? Nobody knows? Nobody knows what agreement we use when I got this sweet seller finance deal. This sweet deal. You know what that reminds me of? Napoleon. Yeah. Oh, a purchase. Eric says a purchase and sale agreement with a payment schedule. See, he's getting fancy. You fancy, huh? You got a payment schedule. Owner finance. Yeah, you know what? If I'm going to do a seller carryback, you know what I need? Purchase and sale agreement. It might require a financing addendum, but probably not. I've got one that's got it all right there. So far, let's recap real quick. Wholesale cash deal requires what? Purchase and sale agreement. A subject to requires what? A purchase and sale agreement. What else? A wraparound requires what? A purchase and sale agreement. What else? An owner finance seller carryback requires what? Owner finance seller carryback requires a purchase sale agreement. Okay, I think I'm getting the point here. Wait a minute. What about contract for deed and land contract and stuff? Oh, yeah, that's where we get a little different. Maybe. Easy to do though. Easy to do. Don't sweat that. That's where the installment plan and all that stuff really comes in play. Is the contract for deed and all that stuff. The next one, lease option. What agreements do we use for this? Let's say a lease purchase would be a lease agreement and a purchase and sale agreement. Again, back to purchase and sale agreement. If you do a lease option, it's a lease agreement with a option to purchase agreement. That's right. So T. Bezzy says lease agreement and purchase agreement. Yeah, it's back to the purchase and sale agreement again. What about the last one was the straight option. This is even easier than a purchase and sale agreement. It's just an option. It's like a half a page. So what can we surmise out of a cash deal that needs a purchase and sale agreement? We've got a subject to that needs a purchase and sale agreement. We've got a wraparound that needs a purchase and sale agreement. We've got an owner finance deal here that's going to need that seller carryback. It's going to need a purchase and sale agreement. We're going to have a lease option that's going to need a lease and a purchase and sale agreement. And we're going to have an option agreement in our kit. So I think it's safe to say that if you want to be a transaction engineer, you're going to have to break the mold a little bit and find a really good purchase and sale agreement. If you don't have one, schedule with me at shutupmoney.com and I'll make sure you get one. But if you've got a great purchase and sale agreement, you can do almost every one of these on one document. One document, except for the lease option, which you can add a lease to, or a lease purchase, which you can add a lease to. See how easy this is? And it's been clouded, it's been shadowed, it's been shaded, it's been twisted and molded and crafted and packaged and sold and repackaged and sold and shit. All you need to do is master the purchase and sale agreement. You can do anything you want. You know what? I'm going to write a book called The Real Estate Solutions They Don't Want You to Know About, like Justin Trudeau, except not Justin. Is it just? No, that's the Prime Minister of Canada. Who's the guy that just got out of prison for the whole cures they don't want you to know about stuff? That's going to be me. I'm going to write a book, you know, the simplicity in owner finance that they don't want you to know about. Okay. All right. Love you guys. I hope you got something good out of tonight. We've been here for an hour and 10 minutes. I'm going to cut you loose. We have 14 people. We've had a number of people come and go throughout the night. God bless every one of you. Thank you so much. My heart is really in your corner. All right. Because I've been where you are probably in a lot of cases. Not all of them. I get that. I'm an ignorant outsider, but I have drugged my balls through the broken glass of life. I've been shredded up. Right. And I know what it feels like to be at the bottom starting over. And I know what it feels like to hurt. And I know what it feels like to win and to lose it all and to start over again. All right. And I can tell you one thing. It all comes back to skill. It really does. If you've got a skill that you can use that people need, And that is what we're talking about right now. That is a skill. This is nothing more than a skill, okay? All you got to do is just learn the purchase and sale agreement, learn a little bit about these strategies, learn how to talk to a homeowner with some of these questions. Write them down, make them yours, and you're one step closer to being a transaction engineer. Okay? I love you guys. Thank you for joining me tonight. You guys flatter me. Thanks for being here. Peace to you and your households, okay? Don't let them grind you down. Don't let them beat you down, okay? Stay strong, and we'll see you guys again next week, okay? Next week, I'm thinking about talking about, put in the chat what you want to hear me talk about next week too, by the way. But next week, I'm planning on talking about contingencies that a creative real estate investor should know that you can add to your contract that'll help you get special things, like maybe out of one, or some special benefits that you might need to be aware of as a creative real estate investor. Maybe we talk about the purchase and sale agreement, since you need to master that. Okay. And maybe your homework is just scheduling with me so I can get you a good copy of a great purchase and sale agreement so that you can just spend 30 minutes becoming a transaction engineer with it. Okay. It ain't that complicated. All right. So anyway, love you guys. I will see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody. Welcome to my Elite Apprentice Program for creative real estate investors and coaches. Hi, my name is Justin Chamness. I have over 600 career wholesale deals and have been coached over 350 students with an impeccable record of success. But today I'm here to help you launch your own successful creative real estate investment business. Are you wanting to free yourself from a soul-sucking job? Or maybe you just want to build a legacy, an income that will last? It's not easy, but it's definitely doable. That's why I've created this Elite Apprentice Program to guide you step by step to make sure you know exactly what to do to succeed in this business. My apprentice program includes all of my courses, including virtual lease options, wholesaling, and sandwiches. Sub 2.0, this is subject to wholesaling, co-wholesaling, bank-owned and MLS wholesaling, and lots more. Plus, I'll personally mentor you. I'm also going to personally duplicate my lead machine just for you. That's right. I said I'll pay for the leads that you generate with your very own copy of my personal lead generation machine. If you're not familiar, this is the lead gen machine that produces motivated seller leads every single day. I'm also going to be here for you to help you close these deals over the phone. You'll schedule times with me on 3-way calls to close these deals with the homeowners. That's why people call this the Shut Up Money Shortcut. If that's not enough, I'm going to volunteer my Dispo engine to help you sell off your deals while you're an apprentice here with me. Now, if you know me, that's a rare thing because I have a very small circle of professional joint venture partners that I'm usually willing to joint venture with. You will also gain Zoom Room access to my business partners and friends in my daily Zoom Room sessions. These include hosts like Claude Diamond, Brandon Simmons, Arturo Ace of Texas Cervantes, and many others. In this program, you will graduate in 60 days. You may decide to leave then, or you may decide to stay long term. You might even become a team coach, or perhaps you'll decide to cancel and leave anytime you're ready. I require no contracts to lock you in. My goal with this program is to create for myself professional future joint venture partners for joint venture deals. Also, future coaches that I can collaborate with. No one gets rich in this business alone. No one. So I'm building an elite unit of professional creative real estate investors and wholesalers. Are you one of us? You decide. Let me know. It is easy to get started. Just click the button when you've decided you're ready. Or we could strategize for a few minutes and see if this is a good fit for you. Schedule a Zoom with me and let's find out. I'll see you soon. Are you still here? Wait, what are you doing? It ended like 5 minutes ago. All right.